Rubrics have become a very important tool for program assessment and accreditation. We have added rubrics support to CSNS, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use these functions. This is what a rubric looks like. Each rubric has a number of performance indicators. In this oral communication rubric, we have 5 indicators: logical organization, English language, technical vocabulary, presentation aids, and audience interaction. Each performance indicator is rated on a scale from 1 to a certain number. Typically, it's 1 to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. In this case, we have a scale from 1 to 5. For each rating of a performance indicator, we need to specify certain criteria. Now let's create a new rubric. So I'm going to create a rubric that I'm going to use to rate my class presentations. So I'm going to call this my class presentation rubric, and I can give some description here, which can be anything. I'll say this rubric is for my class only, and the scale, I'm going to use a scale from 1 to 3, and I can specify this rubric to be either public or private. Private meaning that I'm the only one who's going to be able to use this rubric. Public means that everybody can use this rubric. For now, I'm going to leave public unchecked, so this rubric is going to be for my own use. And here I can add performance indicators, so I'm going to add 3. The first one is knowledge, and the criteria can be, we'll say bad, okay, and good. And the second performance indicator, I'll call it organization. But actually, I'm going to call it content. And this one would be bad, okay, and good. And so notice that now my rubrics appears in this tab personal. It means this is my own rubric, and under the tab department are the rubrics used by the whole department. And to edit a rubric, simply click on the edit button, and then we can change the scale, change the description, name, and so on and so forth. And we can also edit each individual indicator. So, or we can delete an indicator, or we can add a new indicator, and let's say language, bad, okay, and good. Okay, so notice that there's a publish link here. A rubric must be first published in order for anybody to use it. Before a rubric is published, the author of the rubric can make any changes to the rubric, including changing the scale, adding and removing indicators, and so on. And once a rubric is published, certain things can no longer be changed about this rubric. In particular, you can no longer make structural changes to the rubric. You can, for example, no longer change the scale. You can no longer add or remove indicators, but you can still edit individual indicators to make edits if necessary. And One more option, one more operation you can do with a personal rubric is to promote it into a department rubric. And that function is only available for department administrators. So I can, for example, promote this one into a department rubric. And now notice that my personal rubric tag disappeared, and this becomes a department rubric. In fact, it becomes the only published department rubric. Now I'm going to publish a few department rubrics, and so that we can see how we can evaluate those rubrics. I'm going to publish oral communication, teamwork, written communication, and software engineering implementation. And this button, by the way, allows you to create a new rubric by cloning an existing rubric. And there's also a search function. For example, you can search for oral something, and it will locate the rubrics that has the word oral in the name, and then from there you can either view the rubric or you can clone the rubrics and so on. The search function only search public rubrics, so if you want to keep your own rubrics private, you can do so, and they won't appear in the results of the search. Okay, so now we have a number of rubrics, and let's do some evaluation. Now, let's suppose that I'm the instructor of CS 496C, which is one of the capstone courses in computer science. And to create some rubric evaluation, it's very similar to creating a assignment in the class. So click on Create Assignment, and choose from the drop-down list rubric. Instead of the regular or online assignment, we are going to create a :rubric assignment. Now, in the drop-down list of the rubrics, you'll see all the public rubrics that are either from your own personal rubric collection or from your department, and all these are from the department. And let's say that in CS 496C, we want to evaluate oral communication, software engineering, and teamwork. So we pick oral communication. By default, the name of the assignment is rubric and then rubric name, and you can change that if you want. I'll just keep the default name. And there are three types of evaluations. There are the instructor evaluation, there are the peer evaluation, and then there are the external evaluation. So instructors should always evaluate those rubrics, and for certain rubrics like teamwork, you may want to let the students to do peer evaluation, and if that's the case, you would want to check the students checkbox here. And for certain evaluations, you may also invite external evaluators to evaluate them, and you can add their name here. So in this one, I'm going to add evaluator whose name is Len Goodman. It's just a made-up name, and nothing that the person doesn't exist other than, in a TV program. That's another story. Okay, so let me go back to oral communication. So let's say that for oral communication, we want to do instructor and external evaluation. And there's a due date for the evaluation. I'm going to set the due date to 1 week from now. And similar to other assignments, you also need to first publish this evaluation in order for the evaluator to see them. So I'm going to publish this one. And remember that this one is going to be evaluated by the instructors of the class and external reviewer. So let's create another one, and this one is going to be teamwork. And this one I'm going to do an instructor evaluation and then peer evaluation. So I'm going to check students per checkbox, and same due date, and then let's publish it. Okay, so now the rubric is published, and as an instructor, I can now evaluate those rubrics. So there are 2 students in my class right now, Jendo and Zhangdo. So if I click oral communication, I can evaluate those 2 students for this rubric. And notice that for this rubric, we specified instructor evaluation and external evaluation, and right now we don't have any. So I'm going to evaluate by clicking this button, and so I'm going to evaluate Jendo, and let's say Jendo's oral communication has very good logical organization, very good English, very good technical vocabulary, uses PowerPoint good, and so-so audience interaction. Okay. So now you can see that my evaluations show up here. We have 5, 5, 5, 3, right? And go back, and here shows that we now have 1 instructor evaluation. And let me also evaluate John, and let's say John is a bad student, and everything is just so-so. And so it's 3332, and go back is here. So now let me use a different browser and log in as a student. So let's say that I'm logging in as Zhangdo. So notice that Zhangdo only sees the rubric teamwork, because this is the only rubric that asks for peer evaluation. Zhangdo doesn't see the rubric oral communication, because that's going to be evaluated by the instructor and the external evaluator. And so let's say Zhangdo click on this, and Zhangdo won't see his own name here. They shouldn't be evaluating themselves, of course, but Zhangdo can evaluate Jendo. So Zhangdo will evaluate Jendo, and Zhangdo, let's say, give a very good evaluation for Jendo. And notice that it shows up here as peer evaluation, and Zhangdo can change its evaluation if he decides to do so. And anytime before the rubric's evaluation is due, people can change their evaluations. So let's say Zhangdo changes to 5, 5, 4, 3, 5. So as the instructor of the class, I can see all the other evaluations, and notice that we can see Zhangdo's evaluation for Jendo, and we click on this, we can see Zhangdo has evaluated Jendo with 5, 5, 4, 3, 5. And we can similarly log in as Jendo, and Jendo will be able to evaluate Zhangdo. And let's say Jendo gives really bad evaluation to John, and if we go back and click on John, we can see that Jane gives all 1s to John, and this is my account, and this is Jane's account. Okay, so let's say that we want to evaluate you as the external evaluator. Before an external evaluator can evaluate anything, you want to make sure that the external evaluator is in the rubric evaluator group of your department. So right now, nobody is in this group, and let me add Len Goodman to this group. So now Mr. Goodman can evaluate rubrics for computer science department. If the user you want to invite as external evaluators doesn't have a CSNS account, simply create an account for them and then add them to the rubric evaluator group. So Mr. Goodman has this L Goodman username, so let me log in as Mr. Goodman. And when an external evaluator logs into CSNS, they will be able to access the evaluator homepage under the home menu. So go there, and they can see the rubrics they are supposed to evaluate. Notice that Mr. Goodman only sees oral communication, and that's because only oral communication has the external evaluation. Teamwork only has instructor and peer evaluation. So Mr. Goodman can then evaluate Yang Doe and Jin Doe, and so the external evaluator currently can also see the instructor's evaluation, and they can add their own evaluation. So let's say Mr. Goodman evaluates Jin as very good as well. So 555, and evaluates Zhang as not so good. 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, and so now we can see the instructor's evaluation, external reviewer's evaluation, and if you have multiple instructors or multiple external evaluators, you'll see all of their evaluations here, and similarly all of their evaluations here. Okay, so this is for now. We are still continuing working on this rubrics features, and in the near future we'll add graphing and charting capabilities, and we'll also do some fine-tuning with the user interface. But as you can see, it's fully functional now. Okay.